We all have that moment, don't we? Lying in bed at night, scrolling through our phones, seeing everyone else's perfect vacations and promotions and relationships, wondering why we're not happier. We make lists in our heads of what needs to happen before we can finally feel content. Maybe it's a better job, more money, finding the right person, losing 20 pounds, or buying that dream apartment. We tell ourselves I'll be happy when. And then we chase those goals with everything we've got. But here's the strange thing, if you actually talk to the happiest people you know, they're usually not the richest or the most successful or the best looking. They're regular people who seem to have figured out something the rest of us are missing. They're not waiting for their life to start. They're not postponing joy until everything falls into place. They've discovered that happiness isn't something you find at the end of a long journey, it's built into how you live each ordinary day. So what do they know that we don't? What really makes the difference between people who genuinely enjoy their lives and those who constantly feel like something's missing? Scientists have been studying happiness for decades now, and what they've found is pretty eye-opening. The longest study on human happiness, run by Harvard University for over 80 years, followed hundreds of people throughout their entire lives. They tracked everything: income, career success, health, habits, relationships, you name it. And after all those years of research, they discovered something that might surprise you. The single biggest factor in determining whether someone lives a happy, healthy life isn't money or success or fame. It's relationships. The people who had strong, warm connections with family and friends were happier, healthier, and lived longer than people who were isolated, no matter how much money they had in the bank. In fact, loneliness turned out to be as damaging to health as smoking or obesity. This isn't just feel-good advice, it's based on solid evidence. We're built for connection. We need other people, not just to survive, but to thrive. Yet somehow, in our busy modern lives, relationships are often the first thing we neglect. We're too tired, too busy, too stressed. We'll get to it later, we tell ourselves. But later never comes, and meanwhile, the one thing that could actually make us happier gets pushed to the bottom of the list. Money is another interesting piece of the puzzle. Does it buy happiness? Well, yes and no. Research shows that money does make you happier, but only up to a certain point. If you're struggling to pay rent, put food on the table, or afford basic health care, then yes, more money will absolutely improve your quality of life. Financial stress is brutal, and having enough to cover your basic needs plus a little cushion makes a huge difference. But once you're past that point, once you have security and stability, more money doesn't really move the needle much. Someone making $60,000 a year isn't significantly less happy than someone making $200,000, assuming both have their needs met. What matters more than how much you have is how you spend it. People who spend money on experiences rather than things, who use it to buy time with loved ones, who invest in learning new skills, or who give it away to help others, those people get way more happiness per dollar. Meanwhile, the new car or the designer handbag gives you a quick thrill that fades surprisingly fast. We adapt to new stuff almost immediately and then we're back where we started, looking for the next thing to buy. Let's dig deeper into relationships because they really are the foundation of happiness. Think about the best moments of your life, chances are, most of them involved other people. A great conversation over dinner. Laughing until your stomach hurts with friends. Feeling truly seen and understood by someone who cares about you. These moments aren't just nice, they're essential. The happiest people treat their relationships like a priority, not an afterthought. They actually schedule time with friends and family instead of hoping it will just happen. They show up for people. They put down their phones during conversations. They remember what's going on in their loved ones' lives and ask about it. And here's a small but powerful thing they do: when someone shares good news with them, they get genuinely excited and ask questions instead of just saying cool and moving on. This tiny habit, which researchers call active constructive responding, makes people feel valued and strengthens the bond between you. The truth is, you don't need a massive social circle to be happy. You need a few solid connections where you feel like you can be yourself, where you're cared about, and where you show up for each other through good times and bad. Another key to genuine happiness is having something meaningful to do with your time. Notice I didn't say successful or impressive, I said meaningful. When you spend your days doing things that feel purposeful, that challenge you in good ways, that let you use your strengths, you feel more alive. This could be your job, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a hobby, a creative project, volunteering, learning a new skill, or working toward a goal that matters to you. Psychologists call it flow, that state where you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time flies and everything else fades away. It happens when you're doing something that's just hard enough to keep you engaged but not so hard that you're overwhelmed. Maybe it's cooking a complicated recipe, working on a garden, writing, playing music, fixing something, or learning a language. Whatever it is, having something that demands your full attention and gives you a sense of progress is incredibly satisfying. The problem is that most of us spend way too much time on activities that don't really engage us, mindless scrolling, watching shows we don't even like, or doing work that feels pointless. Making space for at least 1 hour a day where you're truly focused on something you care about can transform how you feel about your life. Helping other people is another surprisingly powerful source of happiness. It sounds counterintuitive, right? When you're stressed and busy, the last thing you feel like you have is extra time or money to give away. But study after study shows that people who help others, whether through volunteering, doing favors for friends, or even just small acts of kindness, report feeling happier and more satisfied with their lives. There's even a term for it, the helper's high. When you do something generous, your brain releases feel-good chemicals that boost your mood. It also shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, you recognize what you can give, which makes you feel more capable and connected. This doesn't mean you should exhaust yourself taking care of everyone else. It just means that building some generosity into your regular routine, helping a neighbor, mentoring someone, donating to a cause you care about, or surprising someone with a thoughtful gesture, will probably make you feel better than spending that same time or money on yourself. Now let's talk about something that quietly ruins a lot of people's happiness: comparison. We're constantly measuring ourselves against others, and social media has turned this into an Olympic sport. Everyone else seems to be traveling to exotic places, getting engaged, landing dream jobs, and looking fantastic while doing it. Meanwhile, we're eating cereal for dinner in our sweatpants wondering where we went wrong. But here's the thing, you're comparing your messy, complicated reality to everyone else's carefully edited highlights. It's a rigged game, and the only way to win is not to play. The research is clear: the more time people spend on social media passively scrolling, the worse they feel about their own lives. This doesn't mean you have to delete everything and move to the woods. It just means being intentional about it. Unfollow accounts that make you feel bad about yourself. Limit your scrolling time. Use social media to actually connect with people, not just to spy on their lives. And whenever you catch yourself comparing, try to redirect. Instead of measuring yourself against someone else, compare yourself to who you were last year. Are you growing? Learning? Getting better at things that matter to you? That's the only comparison that's actually useful. Your body has a huge impact on your happiness, even though we often forget about it. When you're not sleeping enough, not moving your body, eating poorly, and spending all your time indoors under artificial light, your mood suffers. This isn't shallow advice, it's fundamental. Sleep affects everything: your emotional stability, your ability to handle stress, your decision-making, your relationships. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours, and when you consistently get less, you're basically walking around with a happiness handicap. Movement is just as important. You don't need to become a gym rat, but regular physical activity, even just a daily walk, has been proven to improve mood as effectively as medication for mild to moderate depression. Getting outside, especially in natural light, also makes a real difference. Sunlight helps regulate your sleep cycle and boosts serotonin, which improves mood. Even just 10 or 15 minutes in a park or green space can lower stress levels. The happiest people treat these things not as luxuries they'll get to someday, but as basic maintenance, like brushing their teeth. When you take care of your body, everything else gets easier. Gratitude might sound like a cliché, but it works. Our brains are naturally wired to focus on problems and threats. It kept our ancestors alive, but it makes modern humans kind of miserable. We remember the one criticism and forget the 10 compliments. We focus on what went wrong and take what went right for granted. Practicing gratitude is like retraining your brain to notice the good stuff too. It doesn't mean ignoring real problems or pretending everything is perfect. It just means making a habit of noticing what's actually going well. One of the most effective practices is simple. Every night before bed, write down 3 good things that happened that day, even small ones. Your coffee was really good. Your friend made you laugh. You finished something you'd been putting off. The sun felt nice on your face. When you do this regularly, you start noticing more good moments as they happen because your brain learns to look for them. Another practice is savoring, really paying attention to pleasant experiences instead of rushing through them. Actually taste your food instead of eating while staring at a screen. Notice how good it feels to take off your shoes after a long day. Sit with your kid or your pet for an extra minute. These tiny moments of presence add up to a life that feels richer and more satisfying. One thing that really helps is getting clear about what actually matters to you and then organizing your life around it. Most of us have never really thought about our core values. We just drift along doing what we're supposed to do, what others expect, what's always been done. But when you take time to figure out what you truly care about, maybe it's family, creativity, learning, health, adventure, justice, or service, and then look honestly at how you're spending your time, you often find a painful mismatch. You say family is your top priority, but you work 70 hours a week and never see them. You value health, but you haven't moved your body in months. You care about creativity, but you haven't made anything in years. Closing that gap, even in small ways, makes a huge difference in how you feel. It might mean protecting one evening a week for family dinner. Starting a small creative project. Saying no to commitments that don't align with what matters most. You can't do everything, but you can make sure the big pieces of your life reflect what you actually value, and that alignment feels deeply satisfying. Here's the honest truth: you won't feel happy all the time, and that's completely normal. Life includes hard things, loss, disappointment, failure, grief, stress. The goal isn't to be joyful every single moment. The goal is to build a life that generally feels good, that has enough of the things that matter: connection, purpose, growth, generosity, presence, to sustain you through the rough patches. Happiness isn't something you achieve once and keep forever. It's more like fitness: you have to keep practicing the habits that support it. The good news is that these habits are simple, even if they're not always easy. Spend real time with people you care about. Do work or activities that engage you. Help others. Move your body. Get enough sleep. Notice and appreciate good moments. Limit comparison. Align your life with your values. None of this requires a perfect life or tons of money or ideal circumstances. It just requires small, consistent choices that add up over time. Start with one thing, maybe a 10-minute walk each day, or texting a friend each week to make plans, or writing down 3 good things before bed. Just one small change, done regularly, can shift how you feel about your entire life. Happiness isn't something you wait for or chase down. It's something you build, piece by piece, in the ordinary moments of an ordinary day. And that's actually the best news possible, because it means you can start right now.